Shovel Knight King of Cards is the final single-player DLC for the indie game Shovel Knight. I actually played the original game alongside the other two single-player campaigns, Plague of Shadows and Spectre of Torment, on my 3DS. When it came to King of Cards, I already had a Switch Lite at that point, so I opted to just get the $10 individual version that can be played separate from Shovel Knight on the Switch eShop. I think out of the 4 single-player campaigns in total, King of Cards would have to be my personal favorite. I could just be a little bit biased because it was the first Shovel Knight campaign I played on Switch, but there's a lot of aspects about King of Cards that set it apart from the other 3 campaigns. One of the biggest differences is that, unlike the 8-stage structure that was in the other Shovel Knight campaigns, where you'd finish a stage and fight a boss at the end a la Mega Man, the stages in King of Cards are shorter but more plentiful. With most of them, you don't even fight a boss at the end. It's just pure platforming. I was actually surprised to not finish off the first stage with a fight with Black Knight, because that's pretty much how the first stage of every other Shovel Knight game ended. Another thing setting King Knight apart from the other playable characters is that he has this shoulder bash move. Whenever he uses it to hit an enemy or go up against a wall, he twirls around and just kills everything underneath him. It's really fun to perform. While the other games seem to put a bigger emphasis on what makes the character different, like with Plague Knight, he had all these bombs and you would play as him and try to concentrate on, what to use, what to do. And Spectre Knight, it was less complex, but the stages were built around his slashing move and how you were going to use that and how you were going to wall jump. With King Knight, you're still going to use his shoulder bash and twirl to get through situations, but for the most part, I feel like they put a bigger emphasis on the platforming in the levels, because his ability, it's perfect for taking out enemies, but you don't use it so much for the stages. You mostly use it for when you're about to fall off, and then you just bash into a ledge, and your twirl will bring you upward and get you onto the platform. So aside from the platforming levels, they also have this minigame called Joustus. In Joustus, it's basically a simple card game where you slide your opponent's cards and they'll slide your cards, and you have to get every green gem that's on the board. I was worried at first that it would be required to get some sort of good ending in the game, but they made it pretty clear that it's just completely optional. As a matter of fact, even in the story mode where King Knight wants to be the best Joustus King, he has to go against the 3 Kings of Joustus and beat them. But the thing is that the rules don't clarify that he has to beat them in Joustus, so he literally just goes up to them and is just like, I'm just gonna fight you like a traditional platformer boss. I guess now's a good time to talk about the story as a whole. With the other stories, it had some sort of emotional weight to him, like Shovel Knight wanted to look for Shield Knight, Plague Knight wanted to impress Mona, and Spectre Knight was just depressed for reasons I can't get into because spoilers. King Knight really just wants to be the king of Joustus. He wants to be the king of something. You can kind of tell that he's just been a bratty kid his whole life. So the story just instead uses this as an opportunity to be really comedic. And it works. I laughed at it a couple of times. There were some really funny moments. In fact, every time I'm reading something in King Knight's voice, I always just imagine him just being this pompous, kingly character who just cares about nobody. Read it in this really obnoxious voice.
Mother, don't embarrass me in front of King Pridemore.
So as you can see, I had a lot of fun with it. Now, going through the story, I was actually really curious on how it would end, because if you play the other Shovel Knight campaigns, then you kind of know how things are going to turn out, but you don't know exactly how things are going to turn out. And given the comedic nature of the story, I assumed they were going to treat what would happen in a comedic way, but they actually treated it more seriously than I expected them to, and it actually took me by surprise. Basically, it doesn't end in the way a traditional game would end. just because of how King Knight is as a character. I'm not going to spoil anything, don't worry. I think I'll end things off here. Basically, yeah, I recommend it, and normally I'd recommend playing the other ones before playing this one, but if you want a cool game that's just $10 and you'll get a lot of fun out of it, then yeah, you could play this by itself just fine. You aren't going to get confused by the story or anything. I just feel like playing the other ones beforehand would have more of an emotional weight to it. But yeah, I think you'll still enjoy it just fine.